at RSGC, there is the potential for excellence, academic excellence, sports, arts, music. So for areas of excellence to be pursued in a supportive environment. And I think it's important that those things not be mutually exclusive. You can be ambitious, you can strive. Certainly the school, again, one of their mottos is that each boy should try to be the best version of himself.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
So the process of, I think, making a decision to send your child to an independent school probably starts with online research, looking at the school's website. RSGC, Royal St. George's College in particular, has quite a word of mouth reputation. So already you sort of probably know something about the school. Perhaps a neighbor's child has gone there, or a colleague's child has gone there, and they've turned out well and they're happy, and you think, oh, I'm going to look into that. For me, it was a very specific moment. It was a number of years ago, and I was running in High Park, and I'm doing my little jog, and all of a sudden scores of these young men start streaming past me, wearing singlets that say RSGC Knights on the back. And they're just, they're pouring past me. They're young and they're fast, and they're so cordial. They're so courteous and they're so nice as they're flying past me. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, excuse me. Have a great run. And I thought, I have to look up, what does RSGC Knights mean? So when I went home, I looked it up on the internet, and of course it's Royal St. George's College Knights, and it's their athletic association, and they were out for the Terry Fox run. I was so impressed by the courtesy of these young men that I said to my older son at the time in grade 5, let's go and have a look at this school. And he was so happy in his elementary school, and he didn't want to make any kind of a change. We went for a tour. We were shown around by a young Georgian, as the school calls its students. He was candid and funny and really open. We met a few teachers. We wandered around the campus. And my son, who's in grade 5 at the time, so shy, so reserved, as we left, he turned to me and he said, Mom, I really want to go to this school. And I thought, okay, that's it. We're looking into the application process. And then we did the standard things, the open houses, the interview, the information nights and whatnot. But from that moment, when I saw how happy he was responding to the energy on campus, I thought, we're going to give it a shot. So I have two sons who've both, one just graduated from RSGC last year. So he's class of 2021. And my younger son is in grade 10 currently. So when we started, Gabriel was in grade 4 and Jacob was in grade 7. And I would say for the younger kids, there's almost no transition. One day you're new, and the next day you're throwing balls against the chapel wall, and you've got best friends. And by the end of Gabriel's first week in grade 4, he said to me, Mom, I want my sons to go here. So he was off to the races. He's currently in grade 10. He's got his group of friends. They're interested in sports and academics and music, and he's really thriving there. My older son, the one who just graduated, he started in grade 7. And I will be frank and say it's a little harder because you're a little more self-conscious at that age. He wasn't a sporty kid, and that's hard because team sports are still kind of an easy passport to making friends. So he was a little reticent to get involved. And then something happened. He had to choose an instrument for band. He chose saxophone. He'd never played it before. So when I went to the first parent-teacher interviews, the music teacher said to me, oh, Jacob, I gave him some tricky scales this week. He did pretty well. If he practices hard, I'm going to move him up a band level. And I said, oh, okay. So I went home and told my son that, and something clicked for him. He focused, he drilled down, he started practicing, he met some other boys who were interested in music. And in 2021, years later, he plays jazz at Humber College, he plays jazz around Toronto, all because of that one moment where a teacher noticed him, saw a little potential in him, and encouraged it just a little bit. And then he did the rest himself. And he ended up being head prefect and class valedictorian last year. So I'm lucky to say they're both very different boys. They both flourished at RSGC. Well, I mean, if you get them in a smart alecky mood, the younger kid is going to say gym, recess, blah, blah. But when I did ask them, because I did, like, what is your favorite thing about the school? And they both say teachers. It's being connected to a teacher, having a conversation with a teacher. That was the teachers who care for them, who make attempts to sort of reach out to them. It's teachers for both of them. And again, very different kids, but that was their number one answer. I appreciate that the school is a happy place, that when you drop off your kids or when your kids take the TTC to school, they're always the heads of school and the teachers are on the school driveway, which we call the lay-by, with a smile, with a bit of a chat, and they're there rain or shine in the morning and at dismissal. And it sets the tone. It means that they're setting the tone for sort of a warm and happy place. And the reason why that's important is, yes, of course, it's a school, but laughter and happiness can also happen at school. And because there's that warm environment, I think it allows the boys to feel confident and to feel relaxed. And then that allows them to focus and drill down and excel, because there is that warm, convivial atmosphere that's apparent from the moment you step foot on the campus. What did surprise me, to be honest, is that one of RSGC's sort of unofficial mottos is that every boy will be known and loved. And they use that catchphrase, known and loved. And I got to admit, that took me aback a bit in 2015 when we first started there. I thought it was a very brave thing to say. I thought it was a very optimistic thing to say. We live in a kind of jaded, cynical online age. And in the end, I've absolutely loved that they stand by that motto. I think it's increasingly important in a world where our kids live a big amount of their lives online. And as soon as your child starts interacting with social media, there is a certain jaded meme culture that they're going to come into contact with. It's just part of young people's cultural currency. And I think that RSGC has this notion of each boy will be known and each boy will be loved. I think that is reassuring, and it does a lot to redress the negativity that sometimes is floating about there in the world. So I was surprised by this motto, but pleasantly and delightedly so. So, I mean, obviously they have mission statements and all sorts of things that a parent can look on the website for, and it's all spelled out there. But if I had to use one word that sort of encapsulated what RSGC stands for, I think it would be the expansiveness of the word community, because it can exist on so many levels. There's community amongst the boys themselves, between the junior boys and the senior boys, parents and teachers, boys and teachers. But even more, not more importantly, but as important, I think, is the relationship that RSGC encourages between the school and the community that surrounds it. It's an urban school. It's situated at Bloor and Bathurst. Toronto has its fair share of significant socioeconomic and social justice problems. And I think RSGC is very aware of that. And so to that end, I as a parent, I like the fact that outreach and community work are just part of its regular practice. Of course, there are things like food drives and food banks and whatever that the boys participate in, but there are these smaller personal connections of community as well. For instance, there's really well-established reading buddies program and math buddies program, whereby students at RSGC can partner with younger kids at-risk schools and support them with learning and games. And I think what that helps translate for the kids is notions of gratitude, that they're lucky to be in a place like RSGC, and however much they can give back, it helps to redress the imbalances to some degree. So yeah, I'd say community is just such a big, giant word with so many facets to it that, but that's, I think, what says RSGC's values to me. On one hand, I'd say, well, there's no typical parent. There's sometimes two parents are working. Sometimes there's a stay-at-home parent. Sometimes there's legacy families who've been going there for generations. Most often not. New parents who are fresh to the school. So I don't know that there's a typical family, except I guess what I would say is what unites the families is that I think notions that we're trying to engender within our own families notions of courtesy, kindness, love, and respect, we want to see that replicated on the campus and in the classrooms. I think the typical RSGC family wants there to be a kind of harmony between what they practice at home and what the child is exposed to at school. So for my older son, who's in first year university now, he's the one who started off shy and in grade 7 had a harder time getting to know people just at the beginning. I know for him, it was being elected head prefect last year and being class valedictorian, because he was very aware of how much support and encouragement he got from teachers along the way. And serving in leadership last year allowed him to give something back to the school, especially because it was a pandemic year. So all the events had to be done, you probably know this too well, online and from home. And I know it gave him a lot of pride to be able to serve his school in that way. And the fact that he was the class valedictorian was like just, I think, the pinnacle moment for him, the perfect way to end a really happy journey at RSGC. When I asked my younger son, for a proud moment, I thought he would probably give me making the baseball team, or I won this award. And he told me something that I will share with you because and he's allowed me to share it with you. It was quite a moment in his life. So he was in grade 7 at the time. He was a runner-up in a public speaking contest, and he had to present his speech in front of the whole school. So that's like about 450 boys. And he knew the speech off by heart. I was in the audience, he started reciting it and he choked, total stage fright. He couldn't finish and he had to sit down. And I was sitting there as his mom in the audience. And I was like, if you've ever experienced stage fright, that was a terrible moment. He was really embarrassed. And the head of the junior school came up to him afterwards and she said to him, I want you to go home, take it easy, rest. And I'd like you to come back tomorrow and do the speech again tomorrow. And he, as you can imagine, was probably not keen to do that. And she said, Gabriel, I want you to have a chance to rewrite this experience. I want you to have a different ending to what happened. And as a parent, I thought, oh my goodness, what a moment. Like, this is tough love, but this is so forward thinking. He came back the next day, even though he didn't want to do it. He recited the speech. He did it well. He ended it up with a quiet dignity and immense relief that it was done. And all these years later, he says to me, I'm so glad that I had to get up there and do it again. I'm proud that I did it. And as a parent, I'm so grateful that that's the way that ended up for him. That was a talk about a teachable moment. That was a big shaping moment in his life. There's so many good things about the teachers. The best thing I think about the teachers is they really like teaching. They really like teaching boys, because that's why they're at a boys' school. That's not always a given. And they treat every parent as though they're dealing with parents for the first time. And I think now, I took it for granted at the time when we first joined, but I think now about how hard that must be, because as new parents, we come in worried about our kids, and we have a sort of probably a common pot of concerns that parents recycle over the years, but it's fresh to us. And the fact that the teachers keep that freshness about them and treat each parent as though they're dealing with these concerns for the first time, and they're sort of unflagging in their care about all the many classes of kids that they go through. I've never failed to be impressed and grateful for that. So the first thing's probably is teachers. I think most people go to RSGC for the teachers. They take great pride in their hires. Teachers almost never leave, like they stay because they're happy working there. Teachers for inspiration, guidance, mentorship, all those things that we want for our children. The second thing I would say is at RSGC, there is the potential for excellence, academic excellence, sports, arts, music. So for areas of excellence to be pursued in a supportive environment. And I think it's important that those things not be mutually exclusive. You can be ambitious, you can strive. Certainly the school, again, one of their mottos is that each boy should try to be the best version of himself. So these notions of excellence are encouraged, but not at the expense of support or humane kindness. And I think that the fact that those two clusters can coexist really recommends the school. And then the third thing I'd say, and maybe this sounds a bit too, I don't know, fringe, The parent community is really great at RSGC. We have a really robust parent group. Our parent association is called the Georgian Parents Guild, which sounds a bit fancy, but it's just the parent association. Every parent is automatically a member. We do some fundraising, but we also come together very regularly for social and cultural events, everything from hikes in the brickworks to film clubs to breakfast out on the town or whatever. And having a familial involvement at the school, it kind of gives you the full experience. You know, it's, again, I'll be frank, it's expensive sending your kids to an independent school. So you want them to be happy and you want to be happy with where they're going to. So those are what I'd say for my top 3, I think. Two things, I guess. One is, and I know it's been very hard for parents the last 2 years because of the pandemic restrictions. So most of the open houses have been online. I believe that we are moving more toward the direction of being able to have in-person visits. The number one thing is to go to the school, if at all possible, to take a tour. If there are information nights, if there are open houses, go to them all, because the ticket to your understanding of the school is getting to talk to the boys who go there. The boys are the real deal. So in any of those events, they will have, RSGC would have a host of boys from the little grades up until the senior grades. Usually there are opportunities to ask them questions, and that's where you're going to get candor, quirk, different personalities, but you're going to see that those boys are happy to be at the school. And that's going to give you a real feeling for what the school is like. And then the last thing I'd say is something that Headmaster Beatty said to us when we went to our first open house, and I believe he still mentions it today, that don't discount a gut feeling about a school. So when you step on that campus, you want to have an experience like my son when he was little, saying, I really want to come here. RSGC is many things. It's got integrity and compassion and principles. It's also a feeling. And Headmaster Beatty once said to me, and he's oft repeated it to other people I know, which is, from the moment you step foot on the campus and you talk to a few boys and you talk to a few teachers, you're going to know whether or not it's the right place for you. And if it feels like it could be a home to you, then yes, then this is the place you want to be.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.